Hey, everyone, it's Andy Hall. You're at the Disappointed Cat Morning Show. We got lots of stories to talk about today. Heavy into the evangelical, what's going on with the evangelicals, so many things wrong, so many things. We got a lot of those stories today. Someone from the GOP in New York has to resign for running their mouth about the LGBTQ community. This is a great story about the allergic reaction people are getting to evangelical Christianity. A non-atheisty story, though it actually has a lot to do with pragmatic atheism here in the States. Filibuster, getting around the filibuster. And more about evangelicals. Wow. Evangelicals and how they're getting in the way of vaccinations. Let's start off with something. Well, let's continue. Let's do something funny before doing more things.
In my super fundamentalist Christian youth group, we were doing a Thanksgiving dinner for the homeless, and there was this guy who was sometimes weirdly flirty, and he was chopping up these sausages, and then he licked his finger and said, "These sausages are delicious." And then I said, "Are they?" And then for some reason, he immediately stuck his finger in my mouth, and I sucked the sausage juice off his finger, and then in horror realized the pastor was standing right there and saw the whole thing, and the look on his face was something I've never quite seen before. It was like confusion and a loss of innocence. And then he weirdly smiled and said, "You guys have a special friendship." And then a little bit later, I saw the pastor throw that tray of sausages away.
An epic story of a super Christian fundamentalist background and sucking the sausage juice off of somebody else's fingers. Wow. I hope everyone's doing well this morning. Simply Secular Dave. He was here earlier. He might be here now. I don't know. Tobin Templeman. How you doing, sir? Heard your latest song on your YouTube channel. Gave it the thumbs up. Good stuff. John Hudson. Glad to see you here, sir. Brain Buzz. Buzzing away. David Paul. Matt Gates is, yeah. I actually have a new a new satirical piece coming out on my blog, Laughing and Disbelief, later on today, pretty much around 11:30. I have it all set up. It's just ready for me to hit publish. And the premise of the joke, the premise of the satirical piece is that Teen Vogue magazine cancels Matt Gates's subscription. Thought of that last night while watching how Matt Gates is still in the trouble bubble. Hey, you getting ready for work again, Dave? Well, hey, congratulations on having work and being able to work at least. Ian Davenport, hello. So yeah, my job interview went well yesterday. It seems like, as many of you know, I work with people who have disabilities when I was working. And so I'm looking for a new job. And the place where I would be working, hypothetically, if it all works out, seems to be pretty good. You smashed the like. Thank you. You know, I always forget to ask people to do that. And thank you for reminding people. So my job interview went well yesterday. We're going to be continuing the process. My first Zoom interview. And so I will say this, being on YouTube this much has at least kept me mindful about looking at the camera consistently as against looking at the person's face on screen. So see, YouTube, it makes you do better at Zoom interviews. That's what it does. Hey, Sammy Jenkins, how you doing? So I was on B's stream last night from 8 to 9, and we were talking about handshaking, right? Handshaking is probably going to be a thing of the past. And then someone in the stream, I forget who it was talking about how they have trouble with coworkers, you know, who just like grip their hands too much when they shake. And, you know, I have small hands. I have, you know, it's part of the disability, right? I don't have a lot of muscle tone, no muscle tone. And let me tell you, that's becoming a joy as I get older. Not having muscle tone, it's becoming a joy. So I have small hands and I have very thin wrists. Remarkably, I've never broken my wrists. Blown out my ankles a bunch of times, but not my wrists. So I figured out the way to deal with, those testosterone poisoned people, men who really want to like rip your hand really too tightly when they shake. So this is my strategy, which I have used many times and have told other people about it, and they found it useful too. Is that I'll tell you the genesis of this move. I was watching Pulp Fiction, and I noticed how Samuel, Jules from Pulp Fiction would shake people's hands. He always did it in this cool way because he's like Samuel L. Jackson, so I know how to do cool stuff. He would reach in and do the overhand handshake, right? So not only do you get to invade the other person's space, only if the other person is a hard handshaker and a jerk. What I've done is that I do the overhand handshake and I kind of get into their space a bit, so they don't have a chance to really summon the strength, the testicular strength to crush my hand. And that has proven an out for me. Now, maybe I'm never going to shake anyone's hand again. I wouldn't be against that, to tell you the truth. But while I was shaking hands and I thought the other person struck me as a jerk, or I knew that person was a jerk, I would always do the overhand and reach in handshake. And that has saved my hand from being crushed many, many times. All right. Chat. What? I just want to push the like button, but some vandal smashed it. Might have been a goth, might have been a Visigoth, might have been an Ostrogoth. Was that a crappy joke? Circa 480? Yeah, maybe in the Western Empire. This is why we can't have nice things. This is why we can't have nice things. That's right. Oh, yeah, Tobin. Good stuff. Tobin Templeman has a new song out on his channel. Definitely worth checking out. So let's see, what else? God, let's do some memes. You got the history joke? Of course you do. Oh, yeah. Right. Very good. All right, so let's do a couple of memes. Here we go. Dad, isn't it weird that the word chicken can mean an animal or a type of food? My kid on the verge of making a horrific realization. I don't know if you've had this epiphany or if you've been around people who've had the epiphany. I was with, my ex-wife, I'll say this. We were at, and this is, of course, while I was still eating meat. I'm now a vegetarian. I was with my ex-wife. We were married at the time. And we were eating lamb, being that she's Scottish, really loves the lamb. And she was eating lamb chops. And she looks up to me and she goes, I just figured out where lamb chops come from. And I said, well, let me tell you something. You're really not going to like to hear where veal comes from. It's weird because a lot of the times, right, we're so disconnected with our food. It's like, this is meat. I know that, but it comes from an animal. All right. Something else. Next meme here. Here's Jesus. This is killer. I've never been able to ride a skateboard. I never would want to because, I'm clumsy and I have a poor sense of balance. But this guy right here, he's crushing it. He's crushing it with a skateboard. I wonder if he did it on Easter. Yeah, can you buy those? Can you buy the crossboards? I think that would be pretty cool. All right, we got one more. One more meme. And this is the best. I try to say the best meme till the very end. And here it is. Old school. We're bringing it old school. Scientific method. Step 1, fuck around. Step 2, find out. And of course, that speaker, right? That speaker from the Muppet Show. The assistant to Professor Honeydew. I believe that's Professor Honeydew. He's the from Muppet Labs, right? From Muppet Labs. Oh, Simply Secular Dave. I see what you did that. Hey, what's up, Jess M? Glad to see you. Glad to see that you're here. Here we go. Tobin says, people who over squeeze suck. I'd like to add people who hold for too long, or you like, I can have my hand back. Yeah, it's not good. It's not good, especially if you get someone who crushes your hand and their hand is schwitzing. I don't know that many Yiddish words, but I know schwitzing is sweaty. So the worst case scenario is you get someone who's like a hand crusher, hand shaker, but also their hand is sweaty. That's just gross. That's just gross. I feel like people like that should have some kind of warning label on them. Simply Secular Day. Pork chops, bacon, and ham come from some animal? From the same animal? Sure, some magical animal. All right. Dr. Bunsen Honeydew. Thank you, Simply Secular Day, if that's right. Dr. Bunsen Honeydew. Excellent. So let's do some news stories, I guess, right? We're going to do some news stories. Oh, there's a lot of good news. This is an evangelical, this is a big atheist kind of heavy news cycle for, it's just the nature of the news, right? It's just a lot of atheism and crazy evangelicals in the news right now. So let's check out the first story about someone who had to resign for running their mouth. New York GOP official resigns after saying gay people would die out on an island. For those of us who are old enough and who are part of the community, you've heard this crazy stuff. Last forever. You've heard stupid crap like this. Gay people would die out if they were on an island. You've just been hearing that since ever. And let's check out the story here. All the links are in the description. George E. Langdon IV, of course, the New York County legislator from Albany, who claimed that if we just put all gay people on an island together, they die out within decades. He has resigned. Langdon made the comments at a seminar called Return to Liberty Under the Constitution at a faith-based Camp Pinnacle last week. Return to Liberty Under the Constitution is code, for those of you who may not be aware of it, as white supremacy, Christian fascism. That's what it is. And, I just want to step back here. If you're going to put everyone from the LGBTQ community on an island, it's the pans and the buys who are going to keep things running for generations, possibly. This is what he said, everything God does is sustainable. It's sustainable. It goes on and on. It's perpetual. Sorry, when you have homosexual relationships, it's not perpetual. I just want to stop here. So when you have gay relationships, they're not perpetual. Now, we're only talking about the relationship itself, right? So the last time I've noticed, seeing that I'm in a heterosexual relationship right now, or at least I'm dating a woman, I think that relationship's going to end when one of us dies. Now, if I was dating a dude, it would be the same thing. But I digress. Give them an island and they'll be gone after 40 years. Okay, because they can't. God created us to be this way. There's so much common sense that needs to be applied to our policies, our procedures, the things we do in our government. It sounds like he's saying, why don't we just send all the gays to Madagascar, right? Is that a National Socialist Nazi reference? Yes, it is. We just send them to an island. That's how it starts. We'll just send them to an island. There's different stages of genocide. You have to dehumanize the people you want to get rid of. He also issued a half-hearted apology on Thursday, shortly after this video became circulating. I sincerely apologize to the LGBTQ community and all others for the hurtful remarks recently made at a conference, he said in a statement after the comments were shared on social media. I have never been homophobic. That's what I say. Nor do I think any individual should be placed on an island. I deeply regret my foolish, off-the-cuff comment that caused so much pain. I commit doing a better job of respecting diversity. I hope my years of past public service demonstrate genuine regard, concern for all individuals. I'll be taking time to reflect how best to serve. Moving forward, what you did is that you got caught. What happens is that you got caught, and now you had to resign. Are you sorry, or are you sorry for being caught? I think we know the answer. And finally, and now he's stepping down from his position. During the past several days, I've taken time to reflect, to consider how to best to serve our community moving forward. It is with a heavy heart that I've decided to resign my seat at the Albany County Legislature. I again express my sincerest blah, blah, lies. He's sorry, he's caught. I'd like to thank all my friends for their unrelenting support and my constituents for following me, for allowing me to have the honor of serving them. So he's gone. He's gone. Let the pigeons loose. Celebrate. Uncork the corked fluids and celebrate. Idiot. All right. Back up to the chat here. Here it is. Brainbug says, if your organization has liberty in its name, good chance its mission is restricting freedom. Yeah, it's like the people with the Facebook profile pictures with the American flag on it. It's like, doesn't make you a fascist, doesn't, but you might fit the profile. You might fit the profile. Oh, thank you, Tobin Templeman, talking about some of the comics I've done on my Patreon page about logical fallacies and the such. Well, this is it, Brainbug, right? Dehumanize, segregate, exterminate. That is the basic how things go. This is how you have to dehumanize the other side before you have to segregate them, separate them from the rest of the population, and then, well, like Brainbug said, I'm on fire this morning. Woke Bob strikes again. Now we can't have that gay island vacation. Yeah, what are we talking about? We are talking about the GOP representative to the Albany County Legislature who had to step down because he ran his mouth about bigoted comments about the LGBTQ community. Just put him on an island. All right. I guess this is Evangelicals Gone Amok Part 2. This will be like a 3 or 4 part drama. Tragedy, drama, comedy, whatever. We're going to go to the next story. Well, this should be a book in the Bible, to tell you the truth. Simply Secular Dave, How to Win Friends and Marginalize People, the GOP handbook. And I think it should be, it should be at least one of the Gospels, right? It should be at least in the New Testament somewhere. All right, let's go. Next story. The allergic reaction. Here it is. Allergic to reaction to the U.S. religious right, feeling decline of religion. Oh, I'm going to read that again because it makes me feel good. Allergic reaction to U.S. religious right, fueling decline of religion, experts say. Oh, yeah, finger looking good. Just 47, we covered this story earlier, but it's good to review. Just 47% of the U.S. population are members of a church, mosque, or synagogue, according to a survey by Gallup, down from 70% 2 decades ago, in part a result of millennials turning away from religion, but also, experts say, a reaction to the swirling mix of right-wing politics and Christianity pursued by the Republican Party. The evidence comes as Republicans in some states have pursued extreme Christian nationalist policies, attempting to force their version of Christianity on an increasingly uninterested public. David Campbell, professor and chair of University of Notre Dame's Political Science Department and co-author of American Grace, How Religion Divides and Unites Us, said a reason for the decline among those groups is political, an allergic reaction to the religious right. Many Americans, especially young people, see religion as bound with political conservatism, and the Republican Party specifically, Campbell said. Since that is not their party or their politics, they do not want to identify as being religious. Young people are especially allergic to the perception that many, by no means all, American religions are hostile to LGBTQ rights. I'll say that, yeah, there are Christian faiths. There are faiths that are not hostile to the LGBT community. There are religious faiths in the faiths faiths, not fates or faces, that are not crazy like evangelicals, but they are diminishing faster in general than the evangelical community. And they aren't as vibrant. You can say one thing about evangelicals: they are crazy and they are energized and they do stuff. They're evil. But for all the other faiths, if the United States of America progresses down the lane that Western Europe has taken and Japan has taken, then basically faiths are just going to be like irrelevant. It'll be like a disease that you have that's managed over time. And in some ways, evangelicals understand that. They understand that if they're going to be able to dominate the rest of society, this is it. This is the time. Because if they don't do it now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, it could easily be too late. Same thing with the Republican Party. If they don't seize power now, the Trumpists understood this. Evangelicals understand this. If they don't do the grab for power now, then they are getting weaker over time against the secular state and against secular Americans. All right. Research by Campbell shows that a growing number of Americans have turned away from religion as politicians. Particularly Americans have mixed their religion with politics. Campbell also says there's been an ebb and flow of American adherence to religion, but he thinks the current decline is likely to continue. I see no sign that the religious right and Christian nationalism is fading, which in turn suggests that the allergic reaction will continue to be seen, and thus more and more Americans will turn away from religion. Yeah. If we've seen anything post-Trump in the Republican Party, they are drilling down, doubling down on their crazy religious faith, and that's just going to make everyday Americans just turn away. Let's see. Surveys of those who identify Christian nationalist beliefs consistently show that this group feels that they are subject to more discrimination and marginalization than any other group in society, including Islamic people, Black people, atheists, and Jewish people, Gill said. And Gill is the vice president for the Allison Gill. I think a lot of us know Allison Gill or have seen Allison Gill, is the vice president for the legal and policy at American Atheists, and authored a report on the creep of Christian extremism in the U.S. So, and this is actually, I feel good that Allison talked about this, because this has been the point that I've been making. This is the drum I've been pounding on for quite a while. The last paragraph, Allison writes, they are experiencing, and they, meaning evangelicals, they are experiencing their loss of prominence in American culture as an unacceptable attack on their beliefs. And this is driving much of the efforts we are seeing to cling on to power, undermine democracy, and fight for religious freedom protections that only apply for them. So once again, Allison Gill from American Atheists making the observation that I think most of us know here, right, on this show at least, watchers, lurkers, observers, that this feeling that they're losing their privilege has just incensed them to doing even more crazy things, right? All right, see what's going on with the chat. Hey, Wild Eden, glad to see you here. Evangelicals, yeah. So yeah, sure. Yep, I would agree with that. Let's see. Hey, Dr. Mordecai, glad to see you. You're here. Yay, America, right, Sammy? Yep. The church makes me itch. Hey. What's up, B? Glad to see you can make it this morning. All right, so yeah, we talked about the allergic reaction that many Americans are having to faith. Thank you, GOP. Thank you, Donald Trump. Thank you. And just thank you, white supremacist evangelicals, for helping kill your own religion. And here's the thing too, right? If white evangelical, nationalists, if they don't take over the entire country, then they are helping to kill their own faith here in the United States of America. So this is the desperation that we're seeing. They are in this position that if they don't go for the entire prize, then they know that they will just fade away. They'll just fade away. And you're right. This is what makes them, and that's the thing, Marmaduke Scarlet too. People who are desperate, people who are scared are likely to do really radical and dangerous activities, to make dangerous choices that are not in their best interest. What? GOP everyday Republicans making choices that aren't in their own best interest? I find that hard to believe too. All right, are we going to do the halftime show? I think we're going to do halftime show. And I just want to mention too, everyone, in case this is your first time here, we do an open room. There's an open room from 10 to approximately 11 a.m. This show runs from 9 a.m. till about 9:55 a.m. If you want to come on, and this is just an open room that we're going to be doing at 10 o'clock, there's a link that you can actually, just come and join us. And it's an open conversation. We had a great conversation. We had several people on yesterday and had a great conversation from 10 to 11. Well, this is right, Marmaduke Scott. This is why they want to control the Supreme Court, because that is the most conservative, in a sense, of the branches of government. And the fact that they have lifetime, justices have lifetime appointments. All right, halftime show.
You'll be happy when you're old. That's how human beings think.
But I want to be happy now.
Well, no, you gotta suffer and do the hard stuff now so you can relax and do the fun stuff later.
I can't relax and do fun stuff now.
No, you'll starve.
So what do I have to do?
So do you remember when I told you about money?
The green stuff that allows you to do other stuff.
Exactly. So all that green stuff that you earn, you gotta not spend it until you're old.
So you can't do stuff till you're old?
Correct.
But when I'm old, I would have run out of time to do the fun stuff I wanted to do when I was young.
But at least you didn't starve.
Well, when will I be happy then?
You'll be happy when you're old. That's.
And it just runs in a loop like that, everyone. If you've ever seen graphs on happiness, it's a U-shaped graph, right, in terms of age. So you have happiness and you have age. And what happens is that you're happy, you get decreasingly unhappy, I think until about the age of 25 or 30. It basically coincides with the time that you decide to be an adult. The time that you decide that you're going to buy into home, family, all that stuff. And so from the ages of, typically, I believe it's from 30 to 45 or 25 to 45 for the average American. That is the peak point of miserability. If there's any such term as miserability, from the ages of about 25 to 45, that's when you're in the bottom of the U. That's when you're burdened by career, by responsibilities. And once you get past 45 and into your 50s, that's when you start getting happier. So it does get better. That's what it does. You'll be happy when you're old, cracks me up. Well, that's somebody young who's saying that, though there is some data to show that you're less miserable when you get older. Terms and conditions apply. How happy are you when you're at 47? Well, in theory, Gary Priestley, I don't know exactly about your situations, but statistically speaking, you should be happier at 47 than you are when you're like 35. You're out of the miserability trough, indeed. Very Woody Allen. That's right. That's what I like about his TikToks and his work in general, is that it is very Woody Allen-esque, but without the creepiness. You know what I'm saying? Without the unpleasantness. Oh, Marmaduke's Island. Some heavy wisdom there. Once you hit the age of 30, life becomes a desert with very few oases. Wow. I related to that at the time. Yeah, that is true. That is true. Who was it? Robert Stanley, who hosts the podcast Right to Reason. He was on Atheist Drinking Out Loud, and he was suffering the burden of family and job and everything. It's like, dude, you just gotta. It gets better. It just gets better. You're in the trough of the miserability, and it just gets better over time. Well, brain bug, go with godless God right there. Who is the TikTok dude? Well, let's take a look. Let me see who this gentleman is.
You'll be happy when you're old. That's how human beings think. But I want to be happy now. Well, no, you got to suffer and do the hard stuff now so you can.
So his handle is American Baron. American Baron, all one word on TikTok. Brilliant guy. Actually, for those of us who make fun of TikTok, there's actually some people doing some remarkable comedy work in that short format on TikTok. Obviously, because I love sharing these TikToks because they're hilarious. American Baron, yep. That's good for you. Yeah, that's good. This is, I would say this is probably the least miserable I've been ever. The least miserable I've been ever. If that isn't a ringing endorsement of whatever I'm doing now, I think that's it. Yeah. All right. See, you learn stuff. You learn stuff on this show. It isn't just cheap jokes. It's about, the miserability index and everything. All right. Filibuster? Are we going to talk about the filibuster? Only for a short period of time. We know about the infrastructure bill, about hurdles that's going to happen in the Senate. And of course, the filibuster, you need 60 senators to get a bill passed in the Senate. There is hope, though, that the infrastructure bill will be able to just go on a straight 50-50 vote. And let's check out the story. Checking out the story. Gotta find it here. This. All the links are in the description below, everyone. Parliamentarian gives Democrats potential new tool for reconciliation in early ruling. As many of us know, reconciliation is the process that you can just do a straight 50-50 vote in the Senate to pass legislation, certain types of legislation. The Senate parliamentarian has ruled Democrats may amend the budget resolution they used for their COVID-19 relief bill and attach another set of reconciliation instructions to it, according to two sources familiar with the matter. The ruling is a key step for Democrats as they weigh their options for moving infrastructure legislation, potentially giving them a route to pass new legislation without Republican votes. It's important to note, however, that some details are still going to have to be worked out with a parliamentarian, and it's not immediately clear whether it could be used to pass Joe Biden's infrastructure plan, but it is a possibility, and there is some light there. There's some light at the tunnel, and hopefully it's not an oncoming train. Democrats have used the divisive, that's bullshit, procedural tool divisive to pass. It's only divisive if you're a Republican and you want to run the country into the ground, right? That's the only reason why it's divisive, so-called divisive reconciliation. Procedural tool to pass Biden's $1.9 trillion COVID relief plan last month by allowing lawmakers to bypass the 60-vote threshold normally required for breaking filibusters and moving legislation forward. The reconciliation process was set as part of a 1974 Congressional Budget Act to make it faster and easier to pass legislation related to spending, taxes, and debt, because debate on the bill is limited to 20 hours and can be passed on a simple majority vote. So there you go, 20 hours. And thank you. What is this? The 1974 Congressional Budget Act. If it wasn't for that act, we'd be stuck. And the country wouldn't be moving anywhere. And we'd be in a lot worse shape than we are now. Build the American Jobs Plan. Biden's proposal would heavily invest on rebuilding the nation's crumbling infrastructure and shift to greener energy over the next 8 years. The president's plans to pay for his proposal by raising corporate taxes and eliminating tax breaks for fossil fuels. Yeah, if you just eliminate the tax breaks for fossil fuels, I think that's a big step in the right direction. And I know I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again. If the federal government just decided to legalize marijuana, like just accept it, right? Just allow recreational marijuana usage. They could just slap maybe a 1% tax, maybe just a 1% tax, and that would just be a windfall of money for the federal government that they could just use it for infrastructure or anything else like universal health care or keeping kids out of poverty. Check out the comments. Though this might be true, Wild Eden. It would be interesting to see how the sexes do break down. All right. All right. So let's do something. Let's talk about Trump. Are we going to talk about Trump here? We're going to talk about Trump. I'm going to share a video about the flim flam machine. Wow, such bold language, Andy Hall. The flim flam machine of how Trump duped people into doing recurring payments on their credit cards during the campaign. Yeah. Here we go.
I'll rush to the end here and tell you, I don't know how long it's going to take for this to become a big class action civil lawsuit or potentially even a criminal fraud investigation. But the story fairly begs for both or either of those. Shane Goldmacher of the New York Times breaking the news this weekend of how the Trump campaign ran an over $100 million scam on its own supporters around the election last year, basically duping their donors into repeated payments they never intended to make, which resulted in thousands of fraud claims by those Trump supporters trying to figure out where all their money went. Joining us now is New York Times national political reporter Shane Goldmacher. Mr. Goldmacher, thank you so much for making time tonight. It's nice to have you here.
Thanks for having me on.
I feel like one of the things that was helpful for me to understand in your reporting was that this was something more than just a quantitatively bigger problem than you'd see on other campaigns. Lots of campaigns have to refund money to donors for various reasons. This seemed like it wasn't just a larger amount of money, but it was almost a qualitatively different approach that they were taking toward trying to relieve their donors of money that their donors didn't actually intend to give. Is that fair?
I mean, you can really just look at the refund data and it tells this whole story. At the beginning of 2020, before they started deploying these boxes and before they made them weekly, before they added a second checkbox, and before they obscured the language in those boxes, the refund rate that the Trump campaign and the Biden campaign had in the first 5 months of the year was almost the same. In fact, the Biden campaign had a slightly higher refund rate. But from the moment these boxes began with two of them and they became increasingly complex, the Trump refund rate went up and up from 2% in those first 6 months of the year to a total of 10.7% over the course of the entire campaign, which was 12% in the last half of last year. That is to say, at the end of the day, 1 out of every $10 that people donated to Donald Trump online ended up getting refunded back to donors. Now, not all of those are fraud claims that people called and said, the credit card, this is a scam. But a good chunk of it is. When I went to the Trump campaign and told them the findings, they basically said, look, we had less than 1% of our donors formally complain to their credit card that they had been scammed. That's still a very large number because when Red and the Trump campaign in general tried to give people back their money if they asked for it. So these are people who went to the farther step to call their credit card, cancel their card, and say, hey, I've been a victim of something here. At best, in their accounting, close to 200,000 transactions were subject to that at credit card companies. And I talked to numerous officials at these banks who said there was a surge of fraud complaints around the election and shortly after.
When they had to refund this money, did they refund it with interest? Because they had the money and were able to use it for campaign purposes before they refunded it. If they ended up refunding it without interest, were they in effect taking interest-free loans from their donors?
I've not heard of anyone who got their money back with interest. And more than just an interest-free loan from their supporters, this was money to the Trump campaign when it needed it. As you covered and as you recall, in October, the Trump campaign entered those final weeks of the election with far more television ads reserved than they had money in the bank. So by collecting these recurring donations for the election, and in many cases refunding them after the election, that's when donors noticed their credit card bill had 6 charges from the previous month that they were often unaware they had made. They had the money when they needed it. And Trump continued to raise tens of millions of dollars after the election when he was talking to his supporters and saying, you have to stop this deal. I really won, and you need to give me your money so I can fight this in the courts. The reality is more of the money he raised after the election went towards paying for these refunds than it went toward legal bills.
Stunning. Absolutely stunning. New York Times national political reporter Shane Goldmacher, this is an incredible story. Thank you for helping us understand it.
recurring payments. Hey, take care, Gary Priestley. Enjoy your history documentary, Recurring Payments. Brainbug says this is a good comment with a klepto-parasite. Normally, I'd call this predatory, but the predator in this situation of the evangelicals, Trump is a klepto-parasite. And right, Dr. Mordecai, weekly occurring pay. Yeah. Well, you know, what do you have to really give Rachel credit for is her ability to ask a question that is obviously just hysterical. The idea that the Trump administration would give donors their money back with interest. I think that was the best bit that I've seen her do, of just not laughing, and the journalist not laughing. And that was me. It's like, well, did Donald Trump give those poor donors that he scammed their money back with interest? I would have just been laughing. It's like, come on. What world do you think we live in? One, for Donald Trump just to give them back money to begin with is just short of Yahweh parting the Red Sea. But the idea, yeah, and I said idea with an R at the end, the idea that Donald Trump, his campaign is going to give donors back their money with the interest is hysterical. That was probably the funniest thing I've seen today so far. Oh yeah. Well, he's got he's shameless. That's what he is. He's shameless. He ran his campaign shamelessly. It's just shameless, just taking people, getting whatever he can do. And once again, his entire strategy during his presidency was one lie, next lie, next lie, never explain the previous lie, just go on to the next lie. Hopefully he's going to get into some kind of legal trouble for this. All right. Last story about evangelicals. We're ending on evangelicals, I guess. Who would have thought this? White evangelical resistance is an obstacle to the vaccination effort. Millions of white evangelical adults in the U.S. do not intend to get vaccinated against COVID-19. Tenets of faith and mistrust of science play a role. So do politics. Stephanie Nana, I'm going to pronounce it Nana, an evangelical Christian in Edmond, Oklahoma, refused to get the COVID-19 vaccine because she believed it contained aborted cell tissue. Nathan French, who leads a non-denominational ministry, tell me if I'm wrong. Whenever you hear non-denominational ministry, is that bells in your head ring off saying, oh, this person's probably crazy? Non-denominational ministry, some kind of crazy Calvinist, dominionist kind of crap. That's what it makes me think of. Nathan French, who runs a non-denominational ministry in Tacoma, Washington, said he received a divine message that God was the ultimate healer and deliverer. The vaccine is not the savior. Lori Armstrong, a Bible-believing nutritionist outside of Dallas, said she doesn't need the vaccine because God designed the body to heal itself if given the right nutrients. More than that, she said, it would be God's will if I'm here or if I'm not here. You know, everyone just talks the talk. They just assume, I don't know how old this woman is, this Bible faith-based nutritionist, but especially young people, they're like, well, you know, if I'm here, I'm here. If I'm not, I'm not. If I'm alive, I'm alive. And if I die, I die. You know, they don't realize that there are many things worse than death. There is suffering. Your body can just like deteriorate in ways that you cannot even consider. And the idea about God just calling you home, that's not the worst case scenario. There's just a lifetime of medical issues and pain that you could be suffering from COVID-19. The opposition is rooted in a mix of religious faith and a long-standing wariness of mainstream science. Long-standing wariness, that's an interesting phrase. And it is fueled by broader cultural distrust of institutions and gravitation to online conspiracy theories. The sheer size of the community poses a major problem for the country's ability to recover from a pandemic that has resulted in the deaths of 500,000 Americans. We know that's a higher number than that. I digress. The evangelical ideas and instincts have a way of spreading even internationally. Breathe, Andy. You've been able to do pretty well for this entire show so far without getting too angry. There are about 41 million white evangelical adults here in the U.S. About 45% said in late February that they would not get vaccinated against COVID-19, making them among the least likely demographic groups to do so, according to Pew Research. I was talking with my girlfriend about this yesterday, about, there's more people getting vaccinated, more people. So eventually we will be running up against the wall of people who don't want to get vaccinated. And she's like, we're just going to have to give them all donuts. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that a lot of people who are anti-vaxxers or who just are reticent, we're just going to have to give them stuff. Whether it's a free, what is it, that Michigan dispensary that gives out free joints, free, marijuana cigarettes to people who've been vaccinated. I think that's a great plan. Krispy Kreme donuts, giving people a year's worth of free donuts if they just get effing vaccinated. That's a great plan too. Why? Because we live in a country full of faith-based loons. If we can't get a significant number of white evangelicals to come around on this, the pandemic is going to last much longer than it needs to, said Jamie Ayton. That's how I'm pronouncing her. Jamie's the name. Founder and executive director of the Humanitarian Disaster Institute at Wheaton College, an evangelical institution in Illinois. Many high-profile conservatives and institutional leaders have endorsed the vaccines. Franklin Graham told his 9.6 million Facebook followers that Jesus would advocate for a vaccination. The thing is, what they don't mention in this story is that Franklin Graham may have recently said that, yes, you should get your vaccine. What they don't tell you is that he's gotten a lot of blowback from his followers, from other evangelicals, for even saying anything close like that, close to that. Pastor Robert Jeffries commended it from an anti-abortion perspective on Fox News. Quote, we talk about life inside the womb being a gift from God. Well, life outside the womb is a gift from God too. The president of the Southern Baptist Convention, J.D. Greer, tweeted a photo of himself receiving a shot. But, here's the big but. The big but. Make your comments about the big but in the chat if you want to. But other influential voices in the sprawling trans-denominational movement, especially those who have gained their stature through media fame, have sown fears. Gene Bailey, the host of a prophecy-focused talk show on the Victory Channel, warned his audience in March that the government and globalist entities will use bayonets in prisons to force the needle into your arm. In a now-deleted TikTok post from the Evangelicals influencer account that has more than 900,000 followers, she dramatized being killed by authorities for refusing. The authorities aren't going to kill you for refusing the vaccine. What's going to kill you is your own stupidity. That is just, yeah. One widespread concern among evangelicals is that vaccines ties to abortion. In reality, the connection is remote. Some of the vaccines were developed and tested using cells derived from fetal tissue in elective abortions that took place decades ago. The vaccines do not include fetal tissue, and no additional abortions are required to manufacture them. Still, the kernel of the connection has metastasized online into false rumors about human remains or fetal DNA being an ingredient to the vaccines. Thank you, evangelical Christianity. Thank you, horrible science education here in the States. Yes, getting in the way of vaccinations. Among evangelicals, Pentecostal and charismatic Christians may be particularly wary of the vaccine, in part because their tradition historically emphasizes, oh my God, divine health. Divine health. Oh, what a phrase. And miraculous healing in ways that can rival traditional medicine. Yeah, in your delusional world, said Erica Ramirez, a scholar of Pentecostalism and director of applied research at Auburn Seminary. Charismatic churches also attract significant shares of Black and Hispanic Christians. Dr. Ramirez compares modern Pentecostalism to Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop. That's interesting, with the brand's emphasis on wellness and energy that infuriates some scientists. It's extra medical, she said. It's not anti-medical, but it decenters medicine. Yeah, you know what? Non-medicine medicine is anti-medicine. I want to say that again. If what you're taking isn't medicine, if it's nothing but placebo effect, if it's going to get you killed, if it's going to damage the internal organs of your body, that's anti-medicine. That is anti-medicine. I'm going to check out the chat. I don't think there's any data supporting divine health. What is divine health? Dying when you're 30 from a cut in your hand that gets infected. That's what divine health is. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I did comb my hair today. It does happen. Well, you know what happens, John Funk, I'll use your real name, John Funk, is that my hair's gotten so long. It's gotten into the point of it isn't ready to be tied into a ponytail, but this has been me without a haircut for 9 months. I think it's been about 9 months. And so I'm ready to go and get a haircut pretty soon. Because now if I don't do something with it, it's like Rick from Rick and Morty. It gets out of control. Science makes baby Jesus cry. Single tear. Divine health. There was just so much crazy stuff in that article about why evangelicals don't want to get the vaccine. I'm going to blow a couple of neurons over it. Phil Lister, good to see you here. Good to see you here. Well, I too. I'm on, fully support. Yeah, there are a lot of snake handling videos out there to be seen. Darwin Awards, indeed. Just remarkable. So 44 million Americans are evangelicals. 45% are vaccine resistant. We got to create some kind of incentive. Like, I don't know if it's the Krispy Kreme incentive. I don't know if it's the Kentucky Fried Chicken. I would like to have, I'm a vegetarian, but when I was eating meat, I would do things for Kentucky Fried Chicken, maybe dirty things for Kentucky Fried Chicken. I don't want to talk about that. That was a dark time in my past. That's a joke, by the way. I just want to say that's a joke. Oh, here it is. Saying, in my name, they shall cast out devils, they shall speak in new tongues, they shall take up serpents, and they will drink any deadly thing, and it shall not hurt them. You would think, Sammy, that they would be able to take the vaccine fairly easily because they know that they're immune to any evil that they're taking, right? That any evil the vaccine may have. Yes, brain bug, indeed. Bacterial and viral responses to prayer are currently inconclusive. Indeed. So what do we do? Wow, it's 53 minutes and 25 seconds on time as always. It makes me feel good in my heart. Let's do the last funny video before we tie everything up. End things. Wow. Bad phraseology, Andy.
So picture this, you're a burglar, you're going to break into my house, you turn the door handle, you open it up, and look, there's 40 freaking cats. What do? You probably just leave. So picture this, you're a burglar, you're going to break into my house, you turn the door handle, you open it up, and look, there's 40 freaking cats. What do? You probably just leave.
40 cats? That's a lot of cats. Oh, maybe I might take a cat home with me if I was a burglar. Right? Maybe you can't handle all those cats. Maybe it's time to rescue at least one cat from that home. I don't know. 40 cats. That's a lot of cats. After show. After the show. We'll call it that. That's starting in 5 minutes, approximately 5 minutes at 10 a.m. If you want to come in and hang out and just talk about anything you want, to tell you the truth. I'm pretty flexible, right? We're doing that from 10 to 11. Let's see. Oh, you were just, yeah. Why? Yeah. Would they even notice if one cat was missing? That's a very good point. That's a very good point. Exactly, Phil Lister. Let's not dwell on that, on pleasantries. All right, I'm gonna end the show. I'm gonna do my thank you video for patrons and YouTube members. Thank you very much for your support. I do appreciate it. And I'll see you at 10 o'clock. And if I don't see you at 10 o'clock, then maybe I'll see you at 3 o'clock for Jenga. And if I don't see you at 3 o'clock for Jenga, maybe I'll see you tomorrow. All right, take care, everyone.